first thing I was going to do is let's just do a little bit of breathing and stilling. And I was going to do a check-in, so we'll do that too. So let's breathe in and out. Make sure we have our feet maybe on the ground. Make sure our shoulders are relaxed. We're going to be present here now. Breathing in and breathing out. And one more time in and out. All right. So I'd like to just do a very short check-in with who's here and just how you are coming into this class, how you are at this very moment in this present moment. How are you? Just a few words. So who would like to start?
I'll start. I'm the only one unmuted. I'm
Okay,
doing all right. 9 o'clock is kind of early for me, but I'm happy. It's cold here in Tennessee again, but the house is warm, so everything is good.
good, good. Nice to see you.
To see you.
Who would like to go next? Just unmute yourself.
Namaste. I'm quite relaxed today, but I still feel sleepy. Sorry. Yeah, or usually we sleepy during the class. I don't know why, but because I have how say a good time
Mhm.
for relax and recharge my energy. So
Good,
quite good, happy.
good. Okay, someone else.
Hi, here is about 8 a.m., so it's early morning. It's been cold, the weather in Yucatan, like a cold front, so it's nice and cool. Just to be out of the heat for a change. And I'm happy to be here. I had my breakfast and coffee, so I'm charged. Yeah, and I was reading the WhatsApp group about Julia's post regarding aspirations and the capacity of people to aspire and how that can make a difference in the lives of children. So, yeah.
Thank you. Mukti, we're just doing a quick check-in. And Shisha, if you're able to mute, that would be great. And Emma, that's coming in. So we're just how are we coming in today? How are we? Just a few words.
Namaskar.
Mm.
Good to see you. Yeah, with Didi, we just arrived from the children's home back in Bucharest. And yeah, it had been very interesting and touching to be there and to meet two new girls which just arrived.
Mhm.
And yeah, today I'm fasting, so everything is a bit more calm in my mind. So I'm a bit tired, but otherwise good. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I think tired and good, the themes
All right, okay.
so far. Ashisha says, Namaskar, I'm here. Cannot speak right now. I feel good. Hello to everyone. So that's good. And Emma, how are you?
Yes, I'm fine. I just came from work a little while ago, so it's just a normal day. Everything's going fine here.
Good, good.
Yes.
And you're in a place. You're not on a
I'm not on the way right now. Yeah.
Nice to have you. Very nice to have you. So I'd like everyone to keep their videos on for a little bit for the first part of this morning, which is, and it looks like Ashisha is in transit, so she's not able to talk or be on video yet. Today we're going to talk about, last week we were talking more about belonging and the exchange, and the week before we did some of that. This week we're going to focus on the other two aspects of place and time. And place, I'm going to start with talking a little bit about place. And what does that mean in terms of school and education and yourself? Now, I want to just have everyone, just for a moment, to think about and think, feel, and sense about their place in their own family they grew up in. Were they the oldest, the middle, the youngest? Where was their place in that family? And also to understand that children are coming into your classroom in a certain place in their family too. And what in that family and that place in that family is also, and I did this in the training in Mountain Breeze, which I brought up. So I'm adjusting it a little bit, is to think about your biological mother and father are in that family also. That, you know, they're the ones that created the family, and there might be more than one mother or more than one father. And when you think of their names, that could bring up really happy memories, difficult memories. And that when children come into school, especially young children, that's also true for them. There's usually a deep attachment and love for their parents, whether they're living with them or not. But also there can be difficult feelings, and there could have been difficult events also there. So I'm going to invite you, if it feels comfortable for you. If not, you can just say pass. And if it feels comfortable in your native language, you can do that too. To just say for the group your mother and father's name. If it's not, you can just say pass. So,
My parents' name are Nina and Sasha.
okay. Somebody else?
My parents' names are Gabi and Joachim.
My parents' name Inin and Ruth.
My parents' names are Nina and Osmo.
My parents' names are Laura and Sergio.
And Aisha says, is Nina and Vladimir. Okay. So how is that? Now, just saying the names can be very powerful. When I did this with middle schoolers, they all said their parents' name in a circle. We used to have something called crew in the morning, and they would stand around in a circle. So how anyone want to share? How is that? Just to say your parents' name, they're kind of in our field now. They've kind of been brought in a little bit, just like you're here, and they're sort of in that too. How is that, you think?
For me, it feels empowering. My parents were a little bit dysfunctional, but they always empowered me. And I feel empowered when I say their names.
Okay. Okay. So it's okay for you to do that.
Yeah, very much. Especially, yeah, it is okay.
Anybody else want to share how was that? Or would you just say their names?
Yeah, for me it was nice. I felt like I'm bringing in more of myself to you, and even though for you the names don't mean much, but for me it feels more vulnerable and more loving also, like you said, Julia.
Mhm. Okay. So when I worked with children, anybody else? It's okay if you don't want to share, it's fine.
Ashisha says that names have nobility.
Names have an ability.
Nobility.
Names have nobility. Okay, interesting. So in the exercise I showed at the end of I think the second week, when I was talking about, the best we can do, because there's events in everyone's family history, is to leave those events with them and to take the bit of love and support with us. Like you said, Julia, there's some dysfunction and stuff, but there was like support there. And some people have more of that and some have less of that. Some people, they have to go way back to some events that might have been really difficult that affected their whole family system for many generations. But there's also resiliency and survival and support and some positive aspects that usually people can bring. Sometimes it's not like that, but most of the time it can be. And for us to just have an awareness, I just did this a little bit just so that we have an awareness that children also come to school with this. They're coming into not only the the history of their family and the good and bad and the difficulty in their families, but also in the culture and the environment that's coming in. For example, even though David Pruitt just arrived, I can say that her and I have had many talks about working in Romania and what's happened in Romania and what may be some of the resiliency, strength, and support, but also some real difficulties with the culture in terms of what's happened to them and so many invasions and occupations for them. So I just think it can be helpful for us to know that about ourselves and where our support kind of lies. And I don't know if we'll get to it this week, but definitely next week we'll get to it. But really what we bring in can be, and to try to bring in that support aspects and leave the events that weren't under our control or in our lives with the people that it was with, and just bring the little bit of support and love that we can. And to know for children that they're coming in from all those different places also. So I just want to share for a minute, well, not more than a minute, but I'm looking to share my screen and I'm realizing I might not be queued up correctly to do it. Let me try again. Okay, now I'm going to try again. Here we go. Okay, so this is what we did. We also have a place in our family. So if the bigger blue teardrop or drop, whatever these are, represent, parents, then the little ones are this place in the family. And we've already talked about sometimes if an event is so catastrophic to one of the parents, the children kind of take the place of the parents and how that can create difficulties and for the child, later on. And, there's ways to help and heal that and for them to feel that they have their childhood still and their child inside them is cared for and recognized still. But having a place in the family, and there's a lot of research and writing about this. Some of it, you can say yes. Some of it, you can say, well, I don't know. But if you were in person, I would do an exercise, which I did at the other training, where I would ask someone who was the first in their family to stand first, second, and third. And then I ask you to just change positions. Like if you're the first in the family, how does it feel like to be standing on the last or the last first? And usually it doesn't feel very comfortable to be standing not in the position that you actually are in. And then some people like it, you know. Sometimes the youngest would say, "Oh, I always wanted to be first," you know, kind of. Or, um, you know, I can just say personally from my situation, I had an older brother that had a lot of physical disabilities. And, you know, I was always thought of as the first, and I didn't like it. I wanted him to be the first. And, you know, we have actually had conversations about that as grown-ups and stuff. But because then in my workplace, I always felt uncomfortable. I never wanted to be like the principal. I always wanted to be the support of the principal, kind of. And so when I got to learn about those dynamics that I grew up with, then I got to not always have to translate them in my work environment, for example. And then also I have this little one here that you can see. I can move it. It was practicing moving it. Yeah. Sometimes there's a child that doesn't live that long, or that's a miscarriage or an abortion. And this can also lead sort of let's say in this situation, if it happened right before the first was born, it can leave sort of some stuff that happens, you know, like you don't feel right or you don't feel like you're first. And realize that it might also be hidden. And I did family constellation work, when that came out, just settled the person. Oh, okay, that's why I always felt that way. Oh, okay. And I can honor and respect and include that happened, and yet now just sort of be in my place and feel more settled and grounded in my place. So I'm just saying that for you personally, that's not something you're going to get so into as a classroom teacher, even though you might have an empathetic lens for a child that might be going through something like that they know that something's happened to another sibling or some disruption that's happened. It's more for us, and just more to know that some of those things can have bigger effects than you could imagine. So anyways, we have our parents here and our family system here, and that these things can affect us as teachers and children. And I think, again, we want to take the support and leave what we can behind with who it belongs to, and just take the support for ourselves.
Are the teardrop shapes, the smaller ones, representing the other kids in the family?
Other kids in the family, yeah.
And
Yeah.
then like the birth order position?
Yeah. So this little one might have been a child that died early, or miscarriage, and then this would be the first child, the second child, the third child, the fourth child, the fifth child, like that. Yeah. And I said, if you're in person, you can kind of get a feel for this in person, just to see that it is a thing. It feels like a thing. You feel it. And you can just know it. It doesn't have to affect everything and every decision, but just to know that there is a flow like that. Just like in the classroom, for example, if you ask the children let's say a second grade classroom, and you ask the children, to get in order of the oldest in the room to the youngest, even though it might be a month or two in between, it's interesting what happens when you do that. The oldest is the oldest in the classroom, the youngest, sort of like a family thing. Also, I had talked about this before when I would do children's circles, and I had a child that had some out of order issues in terms of always having to try to be in control all the time. I would make them my second. Please sit and be my second. But that establishes that I'm in charge and I'm the first, but it gives them a place. And sometimes that will really settle a child, besides being proximity settles anyways. Also, with classroom roles and tasks and jobs, you can give kids a place in the classroom. This week, a lot of teachers do this. They have like a classroom chart where this person opens the door and this person washes off the whiteboard, and this person, is the line leader, and all those kinds of things. Give kids, and then it switches, and But I always, when I was a teacher, tried to give every kid, some kind of special little place in the classroom, and that's sort of who they are, and then switch it around too. So, this who I am and what my place is in the classroom is what I'm talking about, like, and how I reflect in my family into the classroom, and how we can as all work together in the classroom to be a community together in the classroom. So this I did the first class, which is the hula hoop belonging. And I'm trying to give you, I just also want to say to you that I put a lot of examples of creative briefs in each week in Google Classroom. And because in 2 weeks, this is coming up about you creating your own creative brief, have a question, how can I see, sense, and feel belonging of the group? That's more of like a breakthrough question or a question, and then the purpose of this, the stilling exercise, and the systemic exercise, the extension. So I would suggest you read through a few of these to get a sense of the flow of them. It doesn't have to follow the same. I mean, there's headers for this, but what's in the middle part is really completely up to you. Or you can take one and make a little adaptation for another environment. Doesn't have to be a whole brand new thing. It's where your comfort level is and how you feel about it. And just to review, what I do is I take a hula hoop and I put it down and I give each kid a card and I ask them to we do a stilling and a breathing, and I say, just place your card where this is the classroom. Place yourself in the classroom. And on the left is when the children place themselves. Then I ask the teacher to place themselves. And I've told the students they can move their card when they feel like they wanted to move. But we breathe, we place it, and we breathe again. Then I ask the teacher to kind of look at it. It gives a lot of insight to teachers about how kids, and then I say, what do you notice? And the kids will notice, oh, everyone's on the outside or this one's on the side. And then I ask the teacher or the adults to put in, and then a lot of times kids will move around the adult or they'll move away from the adult. And I'll just ask kids what they notice. And there's a lot of information that kids get from each other and share. And I know I told the story before, but it was 1.5 years ago, so I can tell the story again, that one of my most deep memories of this is a very, very disruptive child who there was 2 kids that had 2 cards on the outside. And I don't say, why are you on the outside? I said, oh, that's interesting that you put your card there. Can you tell me about it? And one of the kids said, sometimes I need to be away. Sometimes I need some space away. It didn't say space, but sometimes I need to be separate and be away. And that's really good information for the teacher if the child is like separating himself. It's not that he might feel upset or da 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 da, but that's just how he stills himself, or what he needs. And then the other child said, I don't like it. And that, I don't like being here. I don't like it. I don't like being separate. And then that child, who's the most disruptive child in the class, took his card and put it down next to this other child. And then I turned to the child and said, how is it now? And he said, better. So that beautiful reaching out movement from the disruptive child that everyone thought, oh, he's such a problem. In that instance, he was like the hero, the intuitive one, the one that knew to be, support for that other kid. And, I turned to the teacher and I said, look, see what happened? Like create some empathy towards this child who had such trouble, sort of regulating himself, but yet was able to reach out and support another child. So there's lots of things you can get. I also had done this online, and we did it online, I think, last class. So these are ways that you can have children understand. When I do this with bigger children, with middle school children, I have them find their place in the classroom. I don't put a circle down and have them sit down and have them put a card in. I have them just say, the middle of the classroom is here, the outside is here. Where are you in the classroom? And they get up and they move and they stand where they are in the classroom. And then I say, well, what do you notice? What do you think? Then they have all kinds of information about that. I've also done this with huge groups. In 2019, I did it at the Gurukul conference with, 50 people. I've done it in schools with teachers with 50 people. And then you take a big rope and you put it on the ground, and then you give everyone a card and they put it inside the rope. So you can do this with small groups, with classroom groups, and with really large groups. And you still get a lot of information because the question is, I would say, if it was 50 people, I would say, turn to your neighbor and talk to them about what you noticed. What are you noticing? And then you get, and then, turn to the big group. Anyone want to share out something that they notice? You get a little few, what we call popcorn share outs. Any questions or comments about this?
Yeah, one question.
Yeah,
When you did it, for example, in the Gurukul conference,
yeah.
was your question, what is your place in the conference? Because I mean, they're just together for a few days. Or
How about your place in Gurukul?
in Gurukul, okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
That was
And
very
all,
memorable, by the way.
what?
That was a very memorable experience in that conference. I don't remember many things in that conference, but I specifically remember that.
Right, right, right. It's funny. Thank you. And also, I wanted to share here that you can make arrows. You can make little cards with arrows like this. I didn't do with the teacher, with the classroom, but I did it here, and I think I did it at that conference. Because then you can get a sense of people's direction, where they pointing in, are they pointing out? Just gives a little bit more information to do it. Yeah, yeah.
I guess I got inspiration from this. It was sort of improvised, but I've done it also using doll what do you call, like stuffed animals or other dolls, which is also interesting to see then what people pick to represent themselves.
Yeah, yeah. Everything could have, give you a little slightly different lens to something or another little piece of information about something. So tell me, Dee Dee, how did you use it? How did you tell me
I
tell,
actually believe I did it was it this past summer? Might have been this past summer, with the teachers at our school. And I put a hula hoop on the ground and I had them choose finger puppets from Peru, if you know those set from Didi Mukti Prana. And they chose different finger puppets. And I told them, okay, this is our team and our school. And where do you feel you are? And it was interesting because there was nobody in the center. And then I just pointed it out to them and I said, oh, it's interesting. There's nobody in the center. And then they like reconfigurated themselves. Dee Dee then put herself more in the center. And then they were all kind of coming behind her. And then I said, that's interesting. They're all coming behind you. And then she was like, no, 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 I don't want them all behind me. And then she put herself further back. It was just interesting because it just brought up a lot of the dynamics which are actually present in the group of people a little bit holding back. I was like, where's the director here? Who's holding the mission or the center or the nucleus of this system? And when I put myself, they said, Didi, where do you put yourself? I put myself on the outside. And they're like, oh, why are you on the outside? Like they felt like I was being excluded. I'm like, no, no, no. I'm supposed to be on the outside now. This is your system. Like, I'm here just externally now as like a consultant or whatever, but this is now your thing. Didi's there as the leader. So, and actually then they were a lot more okay with me not showing up to stuff and so forth because it's kind of understood like, yeah, you don't have to feel any debt to me like that. I need to be included or whatever. I'm okay with being on the outside of this system, if that makes sense. Like
No, yeah.
it was a reflection of what is, I mean, it's like it was just a reflection of what are the existing dynamics in the group. It was all stuff that that people kind of unconsciously know, but it makes it visible and something you can talk about. Because when it's just existing, but there's no mirror to work with, it's hard to talk about these dynamics that people are sort of holding back or like a little bit not, fully assuming that there's some issue there with who's the leader. Then it's like when you put it there in front as a visual representation, it's much more clear what's going on. Like it helps everybody to see it.
It reveals the hidden dynamics. That's what a lot of,
Yeah.
and then there's something and I would add to that, if you were to do it again, I would ask them what they noticed. What are you noticing about this? You were modeling what you noticed, but it's also interesting to hear what they noticed too. They might be
I think
noticing.
I had that question in there too, but sometimes they're just like,
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, yeah. But you could get the ball rolling for sure. Or
Yeah.
they needed that. to be said and to kind of brought out and noticed, and then they could have a discussion about it and
Right,
talk.
right. Because like I sort of just seeded the discussion by saying, "Hey, what's going on with this? What do you notice?" Then and then they were kind of not saying anything, and I'm like, "Well, I'm noticing this." And then they started to be like, "Oh," like they started discussing and moving around. Of course, when I remember, it's easier. I think I remember more my interaction than everything exactly that they said, but it did stimulate discussion, and it did get them really reflecting, I think, on their dynamic, which was good.
Takes them out of themselves a little bit too and has a place for it and they can kind of see it and look at it rather than having to feel so vulnerable, real like me. It's sort of they're looking at it. So yeah. I like the comment that you're saying that they were a little bit better with you not being so there so much because they could see it and see that it was okay. So that was also very cool. Very cool. Thank you. Okay. So I wanted to give another little demo, share something else that I don't have pictures of, but I've done this 3 times with really big groups. And this is something where you have people, and now we're getting into more of a demonstration of time. This is my place, but it's also of time. So one time at a retreat, a big retreat, I had all the women stand up. This is in the United States, and ask them to make everyone that's been meditating for more than this many years stand here. And then in front of them, everyone, let's say it was more than 30 years, more than 20 years, more than 10 years, more than 5 years. And then if you just learn to meditate in the front. And so they were in this kind of structure that I set up. And then I asked everyone that's been meditating for 20 or more years, let's say, to face the people who have been meditating the longest and just do a little bow and thank them. And then they turned forward. And then the next group, 10 above, bowed to the 20 and 30s, and they moved forward, switched to looking forward. And then the ones in the front, the very front. And then I talked about how the ones in the front have all these women behind them that are supporting them and are there for them. And I was just kind of doing with it, thinking, let's have, a nice, respectful place for women here and recognize it. And it was very powerful, especially for the ones that have been meditating for a long time. And the younger ones really felt. And I've done this also with teachers in a school where I've done that same kind of setup. And actually, the people have been there, the oldest were the assistant teachers. And they said, no, we're never recognized, And I also did this in Taiwan with the older teachers and the new teachers. And at this time, I might have talked about this already. The older teachers, since there's such a progressive education movement, they feel like and so much emphasis on it, they feel like they've been kind of thrown away. And they really felt that they were respected and the younger ones started to interact with them differently through the rest of the conference. So this is something that, has to be the right place, the right time to do, but it's how it might be ways we could have a whole discussion. How might be ways that we respect the people that came before, but we also support those that are moving forward and those that are going to take it to the next step. And I think when you have that balance in an organization where you're respecting what came before, but you're also encouraging and supporting what comes ahead, there's a certain grounded feeling to that that's different than if you're always trying to throw away the old and only concentrate the new, or only stay with the old and never go through with the new. And not to say that people that have done something for a long time can't do new things too. So it's not like that. But I think that in organizations, in schools, in bigger organizations, when you do this kind of exercise and when you recognize people's hard work and long time and respect for them to be there, it can be quite powerful in the dynamic of trying to create balance and well-being in a system.
I love that, but I just want to hear again because I'm not sure if I understood. There was like 2 times that they bowed. You started out with the most senior ones and the younger ones were bowing, or you started out with like the 10 years people
Everybody
bow to them?
bows. Like,
How
so
did it go?
everyone from 20 years younger turn around and bow to the older ones. Okay, now those that are in the 20-year, group, you turn forward, and now everyone 10 and 5 bow towards the 20 and 30 ones. Then the 10 turn forward, and then the youngest ones, and then they move forward, and then you talk. So you do it in kind of in groups like that.
So
You
they're
get,
all in a line. Yeah. And then
like
it's
they're here, like there's like people here, but they're in groups. Like said, everyone from this line to here that has 30 more or years, you stand here. And
so they're
then
turning, like they're facing forward towards the newest people, and then they turn around and look at the people who are senior.
yeah, we start all facing forward, and then I ask everyone from that's 20 years and younger to turn and face the elders, basically.
Uh-huh.
Like that.
Okay, I got it. And I just needed a visual picture of how that works because
And
I've used spectrums before, but that idea of turning around and recognizing people's place in the line is really cool.
and then you invite the youngest ones to feel all that support behind you. Look at all that support you have for you to go forward, And then the ones that are elders feel they want to support. When I did the teachers in Taiwan, because they felt respected, then they were trying so hard to help and support these student teachers, and the student teachers felt that respect towards them. So there's quite a lovely dynamic after that through the rest of the 3 days of workshops. So
Thanks. I will use that in meditation retreats. I think it's a good one. Yeah.
it was kind of cool. Well, I'll tell you later on, Didi, I'll tell you the whole male dynamic to that, but it was a very interesting dynamic. The
There were
men
male
for that
present in the room, or it was only females present in the room?
and stand beside them. And I talked about Baba talking about two birds a bird with two wings, and the men were like, "Oh, could you do that with us?" It was cute. It's very cute. And I was like, "Yes, I will, but right now we're doing this." So
Mm,
it's very
neat,
cute. Very
neat.
cute. Anyways, so that's that, here's another thing. So that's the thing about time. And what comes before, what's now. And you can do it in many different ways. I'll say one more thing about it before I move into something I didn't get to last week. You can do this with how many people have been teaching, how many people have been teaching here, how many people have been, there's different levels and layers of this, like, so when I did it with the teachers, it's how many years have you been teaching here? You could do how many years have been teaching. You could do, there's different, you have to sort of figure out how you want to frame it and what would be the most helpful for the group that you're with, is what I'm saying. Okay, so now this is an exercise that comes out of South Africa, and it's called Ubuntu. I've used this in many different ways. As a matter of fact, I have a picture of where I used it at the Women's Proud retreat in Copenhagen in 2019. So again, this is what a creative brief looks like. How can we create a climate for learning? And there's a purpose. And what you do is everybody gets one of these puzzle pieces. And I have like a little, I make tons of them. You don't have to buy them. You can make them with cardstock and stuff. And you give you give each person sort of, a prompt for doing it. So it could be they decorate it to represent you, or you decorate it to represent, yourself and your family, or yourself in the classroom. But you could do a little guided imagery and then just say, please, let's draw, about you and or about neo-humanism, and your role, however you want to do it. And then you ask everyone to color them. And then one at a time, you ask if you do with children or adults to place them. How, just get a sense and feel, and one at a time, and then they place them. And then you create, this sort of, this is who we are together. It's a belonging thing, but it's also place and time. It's not time, it's place. And then again, you always ask, what do you notice? And, I could ask all of you right now for a second, in this particular thing, what do you notice? So let's just do that for a second. What do you notice? Just anybody about this. I'm going to put it in a big slide so everyone can see it. So that's a little bigger. What do you notice about this?
It looks like a tree.
Looks like a tree.
I mean, it's on the side, but like if it looks like there's a trunk and then there's a, a body. Like it looks like the ones that are lined up on the left-hand side are kind of supporting the rest.
Okay. Someone else, what they noticed?
Yeah,
Uh,
like
Go ahead.
okay. On the right side, there's like a cluster of people, so kind of people being more close together, and on the left there's a line, so it's a bit more separate, but still connected.
Mhm. Somebody else?
It was about the same. My observation was close to this. The people who made the eternity sign with like 8 and the one next to it, kind of formed a center. So they're probably leaders where, there is a straight line and there is the block where it intersects, like in a Venn or V diagram. So, whose name is with an F, somebody's with an A, the eternity sign, and one above the yin yang. Those four, I think, probably form the most popular clique of the classroom or most popular, core of the classroom, because people attach to them on one side and from top and bottom.
So I think that when we're noticing something, it's interesting to observe what we notice. And also, I would be we're saying it amongst ourselves, but if I was doing this in the group, I would be a little bit hesitant to say, well, they're probably the popular ones. I would say something more like, I noticed that all the ones in the middle, that everyone kind of came off of them. So it makes me wonder about the ones in the middle. And then the people might say, oh yeah, if it's a classroom, the kids might say, oh yeah, they're all best friends. We all want to be, sort of allow, like when Dee Dee said she had some noticing, but then allowed for more discussion. We don't know because we're not these people, but there'll be much more meaning of the people that are there. People might also notice colors, like there's, colorful on the ends and more lines in the middle. But I think that it's true, Yulia, that sometimes you'll notice that people that are feeling more connected with each other and people want to be around them and near them, or it might be just that, or they were the ones that went first, you know. So, so anyways, I think it's good to notice and also hold a little bit, not, go too far in the analysis, but just noticing and let the meaning come from, like Dee Dee said, let the meaning come from the people that are doing it, but we don't have them here. So, anyways, I'm going to now show you an example of what I did. Now, we didn't have puzzle pieces, but we had these flowers. And then everyone put the flowers next to each other. And the same thing they were talking about. What did they notice? The pink was with the pink, and everyone got to pick whatever color they wanted. Or, oh, the rainbows or the suns are all over here. And it's just kind of a fun thing to create a sense of belonging, and then also see how we're kind of connected to each other. So that's it. It creates a sense of belonging, and also how we're connected and that we're connected. Because I liked what you said, Yulia, when she said, but yet we're all connected, So, or Mukti said that, I don't remember. Okay, so now I'm going to take a little bit of a risk here. All right, so I've tried for a long time during the pandemic to do this online. I don't really think I can, but I can at least show you what I've tried. So I'm going to invite Scott to put this, the Miro in the chat. So here's our puzzle pieces. So, and then over here is a pencil. And if you click on it and you click on the top, and then you click on the big one here, you'll see some colors. So I'm going to just invite people to move a puzzle piece, to pick one, and move it into place. I'll start. And then you can also draw if you want. And it will, but you have to move it first. I'm going to erase mine. You know something? It might be too hard to do the drawing part, but why don't we just start to see if we can maybe just pick one and put it in place. And if you see someone moving one, then just move another one. So if you move oops, whoops, here we go. There. Yeah, I think the drawing is going to be too beyond my move, but you certainly could move them like into place if you wanted to, like that. So I'm just inviting people to take one and oops, and just move it into place. And I would take the ones on the side and build in towards the middle. Even though we can just do it any way we want. There we go. Oh, look at that. See, you guys have more. Here, I'm
Wendy,
gonna,
I
yeah,
have
what,
a hard time. I can't move. My computer is not moving the puzzle pieces.
here, I'm
The
gonna put here, because these are ones that I don't think we've used yet. So we can see that this is kind of awkward. It's not,
Julia, are you in Miro or are you trying to do it from the Zoom? Because you can't do it from Zoom. You have to be in Miro.
Oh,
You have to go to the link in the chat.
okay. Thank you. Thank you. That makes sense. Okay.
there we go. There we go. Yeah, okay. There we go. Now, if anyone wants to try to draw something, they can. I think that what this can do is it can give us a sense of how to feel like we could connect with each other. Is what I'm getting from this. So when I played around with this, if you do the top pencil and then do in here, you can get a color and then you can draw on the puzzle piece if you want. Okay. We have some very persistent people here. I like it. So you can see this is a bit awkward. It's not like you're sitting and drawing something and then putting it together. But there is a sense that we're all kind of, or at least there's a number of us that are trying to see how we fit together and what that looks like. Okay. I'm going to say thank you. We'll leave it here, I think. We could do this for quite a long time. We have other things to do. So, people are starting to figure out how to. Okay. So, going to move. So I would just maybe ask one or two people what they noticed through this process. Or what they're noticing about what they're seeing.
Yeah, namaskar.
Yeah.
What I noticed that at first the how say everyone try to fit the how say the connection of the each puzzle,
Right.
because I can see that the how say the location, the place change a lot. Someone move it to here and someone move it to another place. Yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah, like
So,
yeah. I think it's the process that try to how say understand and work together first.
right. Right.
Yeah,
Right. How to understand how to do it because it's a little complicated and work together and for it to settle into sort of understanding that. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe one more comment?
It seems very compact.
Very compact. Yes. Okay. All right. So anyways, it's experiment and sort of more about working together to try to put the puzzle together almost than to sort of color it and look at it. But I think that I noticed that there is a heart made it on and some color and a little bit of color and designs and stuff made it on. So there was I think, a energy to sort of figure out and be together with it. All right. I feel good. I at least was brave enough to try it because I debated a lot about whether to try this or not because I was playing with it for a long time. But anyways, okay. So I think it would be really good if we took a 5-minute break. I was going to do the break before the breakout group, but let's take a 5-minute break now and go water in, water out, and come back at uh, 02 after the hour, whatever hour it is. Okay, see you in 5 minutes. Okay, so everybody that's coming back, what we're going to be doing now is we're just going to go into the breakout groups and kind of review what's been happening with our breakthrough question. We're going to be in for 10 minutes in groups of 3, and there'll be one group of 4. So I would just share what your breakthrough question is with everybody. One person shares what their breakthrough question is and any thoughts about, and if you haven't thought about it for 2 weeks, then you think about it now, sort of what might be coming up for you and sort of talk about it a bit. because there will be also a journal writing about it this week. So I would start with that and have each person share. So each person, if there's 3 in the group, will be about 3 minutes each. Yeah. And we'll come back in about 10 minutes. So Scott, you can, and please, if you can, put your video on so people can see you when they're talking to you. If you can't, you can't. That's fine. Okay, Scott, you can put people in groups and you could put me in one of the groups too. Sorry, I think I got bounced out early. And as you were saying the last thing, I apologize. They bounced me out. So, well, we had a very lively discussion, and I'm happy to see that people are really thinking through, still thinking about what's important in their breakthrough questions. I wanted to give everyone a chance to give a little time to that, because you'll see in the homework I'm going to ask you to reflect probably the last time this class on that. And some people are already kind of connecting in a way their breakthrough questions to maybe some things they might do for their creative break. So perfect, wonderful. Any simple anything that someone wants to share that came out of that? Yeah, go ahead, Dee Dee.
Just I was a bit surprised that even though it's not been on the forefront of my mind when I went back to it, that actually I've actually surprisingly made some major breakthroughs on at least one of the questions that I'd had written down. I had to go back to my homework, and I think that I'd actually refined the question and made it better, but I don't remember where I wrote it down. So I was looking at the original one, and yeah, it was interesting that it's just like cooking in the background. I
Yeah.
found that also in the past when I've written strategies, like made some strategy for the year, and then I completely forget about it. But then like when I go back to it, I'm like, oh wow, I actually did what I planned to do. It's like setting some goals, visioning when they would happen. There was one year where I was like, okay, in June, I'm gonna record a CD with my kids. And then it actually happened, but through some other completely unforeseen, opportunity that was through a bank project, and couldn't have predicted that. But it happened like in the same month that I put it on my strategy. So yeah, somehow like it puts it out in the universe. It seems to attract energy once you've got like the right intention or question or something.
Right.
Some magic is there.
Movement, if the breakthrough question, if you land on it, it takes a while to land, then it does move. There's movement that happens from it. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else have something they want to share about what happened?
In my question, my current question kind of leads me back to my original plan of teaching what is not okay with society through mythology. And it was my very first intention at the very beginning of this program. So the plan now is somewhat different, but the tool is kind of similar to what I was thinking about.
So we can notice about how we're connecting what we're working on now to, oh yeah, like Dee Dee said, oh, you set an intention and then movement happens and you're not really consciously thinking about it every morning, or you're connecting back to that tool and it's shifted, but yes, like that. Yeah. All right. Okay, I'm going to go back into our screen share.
I just have a small comment. So I think the breakthrough question.
Yes, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
think this exercise, helps realize what's important,
Mhm.
at least for you as a person. But depending on the lens that you use to ask that question, you can answer, important questions for more than yourself.
And Didi Ananda Gunamaya agrees with you. You see that thumbs up?
Okay.
Yes, Sergio, I agree. Because everyone has different levels of internet connection. So,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if it's resonating, it resonates with a deep purpose, and then it moves, and it doesn't always linear thinking way. It's different ways. It goes, yeah, yeah. Thank you, Sergio. Okay, we're gonna go back to so I want to get a little bit in here now and make sure we have time to oops, I'm in the wrong place in my PowerPoint. Thoughts from PR Sarkar. And sort of Emma was talking a bit in our group about how do we have all these different progressive education things. I'm talking about some systemic education stuff or holistic education, but what's neo-humanism and what's that lens? And how do we put these other positive things through that lens to see, sort of how it complements or how it's with it or what is it exactly? So I thought when I first taught these courses, I sort of combed through I have the PR Sarkar's, all his books and everything online, and he doesn't write a lot about education, but he does write some things. So I thought it'd be good for us, especially in this context of social interaction. And, we've talked about the child system and child circles and how adults interact with that child system. We talked about the teacher system. Really, what we're doing is a teacher circle. Basically, that's why I don't go into it a lot in this class. And then next week, we're going to hear about parent circles. So there's these different systems that are in the school, but that school is in a bigger system. School is in a social system. It's in a place. If the school is in, New Haven, Connecticut in the United States, and all the dynamics and all the system, if it's a public school or a private school, they're all in systems. And these little systems are swirling around in these bigger systems. And actually, PR Sarkar has a bunch to say about it, very right on, even though he wrote some of this a very long time ago. When I was rereading it for this class, and that's why I gave the 3 one-page readings, I was like, wow, it's this hasn't changed that much, unfortunately. And so I'm going to start with this, which is, if you haven't got a chance to read it, I suggest you do. They're short, and I think they're very insightful, and kind of intense. But he first talks about that teachers must be selected carefully, that, not just academic qualifications, but personal integrity, strength of character, righteousness. I mean, when you read this, all these things, because they have extremely, important role to play. And it puts when I first read this, it's like, oh my goodness, am I, do I live up to this? This is kind of intense. I'm not sure I can live up to this. And the standards are very high. But then I noticed in the same reading, he talks about how difficult it is to have these high standards and be a teacher in the society that we have as now. That, he talks about poverty that teachers have out of fear of starvation, and that if they have to work under such conditions, how can they be, available and present, he says, that have the strength of mind to keep a watchful eye on their students. But he's talking about, taking care of their students. So I told Sergio before class about this story. When I was first a teacher, even though I was in the public schools in the United States, the salaries were very low at that time. It was a long time ago. And the teachers in the school, a few of the teachers in the school that had kids, they had a program for free or reduced lunch, which had to do with what your income was. Some of the teachers, they qualified for reduced lunch. They were really living very, very low standard in terms of how much they were getting paid. And so it's true. It's true just for children. It's just for parents. Like if the parents are struggling just to have food, these high standards are things he wants parents to do. It's very difficult. he also talked about all the politics that gets into schools. And if you've ever been around or worked in public schools, or maybe if you're in a non-market school, but it's in a very political environment in the country that you're trying to get funding and licensing for, he says teachers should not be allowed, those that are not teachers should not be allowed to interfere in educational matters that come within the jurisdiction of the school. That would be amazing, but it's not the reality, but at least he's stating that, if you're not a teacher, the teacher should, you shouldn't be able to interfere with everything and go with whatever the political environment is just infected into the school. And also he talks about administrators. A lot of administrators are political appointments, which is true. I experienced it. And that they're not, then can't always be for the welfare because they're always kowtowing to a certain political stance. So I liked for me personally, I liked this, like, these are the high ideals, but also the whole society has to move with this in order for teachers to be able to express those high ideals. And that, there's an interaction and push and pull in these systems. And so anyways, I thought we could, I don't want to go right back into a breakout group, actually. We are going to, and I would like you to talk about, I don't think we're going to do it for 15 minutes. I think we're going to do it for 10 minutes, Scott. I'm going to do the next part before we go into the breakout groups. And the questions are going to be, I'll come back to them again. How did these teacher prep courses develop yourself with these thoughts of P.R. Sarkar? And how can you support yourself and others and share and develop these skills in your future endeavors? Because we need a lot of, when I worked in the public schools in a very difficult, high intergenerational trauma environment, I had to gather a lot of support around me to be able to do that, not, along with kirtan and sadhana and all that. But I had to develop that and help teachers develop that with each other and help parents develop that with each other. So, and there might have been some things for sure, in other courses that help you develop these thoughts about, the inner development of teachers and the helping of also what you're teaching to give a model for society too.
Can I support you on that with something?
Yeah.
I also find, like, you're one of the people that I've turned to in the past. I also find, similar to how you were describing your position in a very high stress environment,
Right.
that I've also been trying to encourage other acharyas now, because I've realized how important it has been for me to be able to face some of the challenges that I wasn't prepared for, by my education or background or anything, to deal with very special needs type of kids in the children's home. And creating that support system of, like, people that I turn to for specific types of advice and support has been really, really valuable and important. And I just wish also that more people know how important that is to construct, so that you can be successful, that you can't do everything by yourself. You don't have all the answers. You need people to talk to and get ideas, encouragement, insights.
Yeah.
Super valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
And even with teachers, same, like, if sometimes the teachers have to create that within the community, like, we try to always make space for a weekly meeting where they can discuss the problems they're facing so that they get the input of the other colleagues and don't feel they're just all by themselves with that parent or that child to solve that problem.
Right. Or you provide some environment. I did only once a month, but the teachers felt it was so important when I did a teacher circle. We just did some breathing. We just did some relaxing. We did some fun art exercises. We learned how to get, we imagined support from, from each other. We did fun little art and the teachers always said, oh, after that, I just felt like the day went so much better, because
Yeah. Melinda, our emergency psychologist, goes in after disasters to, like, hospitals where the doctors have been working full on, after, I don't know, like an earthquake or something. And she offers, like, these art therapy sessions, and it seems like kind of a fluffy thing, like, God, these people are under, but they're like, nobody's been taking care of us. It's the first time that somebody compassionately gives them space to think about how they are, not just how all the people they've been helping are, but and that moment to like connect through imagery and drawing and painting like really seems to be so nourishing to them, you know, even if it's one time. Yeah, but
Right.
it helps.
It does. It does. And then they can see that in each other and they can support each other then. And
Mm.
that's what happened. We had teachers leaving the school in droves, and then the teachers felt that community with each other and they stayed and they supported each other. And they started to have discussions about how to do that. Okay, so thinking for a second. I want to do just I actually think I am going to stay with my original plan and just for 10 minutes have Scott groups of 3 and one group of 4 again with Aisha for 10 minutes, not for 15 minutes. And the 2 questions are is there anything from these courses that helping you develop yourself with these thoughts of PR Sarkar or help with the I'm thinking specifically like the last course on social studies and decolonization gives a perspective of what how can we help children or help the adults in our schools to see a brighter kind of future of what's going on and understand what happened and try to move forward in a more positive direction, or just myself and my own development. And how can we support ourselves and others share these skills in our Neohumanistic educational endeavors? So Scott, why don't we put us back into breakout groups for just 10 minutes, 3 people each. We'll just have a little talk. I'm just going to finish my last conversation with Emma. So you're looking about someone who's having a deeper discussion. So let me think about that, and I can bring it to the college and see there might be a new format we'll talk more about it. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. Because this is the next phase, I feel like, that Pierre Sarkar wants this neo-humanism out into more the general public. He used it not just in little schools all over the place. This is the sort of the next energy wave that's coming.
Yay.
Okay, infiltration from within rather than without. Not infiltration, but inspiration. All right. Oh, hi, Didi. Nice to see you. Didi Ananda Sanjaya. Okay, so what are we doing as far as time goes? Oh, hardly any. Okay. I think I'm going to leave it here for this. And we've had our discussions about breakthrough questions, and we've had our discussions about PR Sarkar and where that's bringing us. I think we're going to move forward right now a little bit. I just want to, I'm really going to, I was going to skip this, but Mukti's here and I wanted to just share this with her because she's all about the stories and the drama that, PR Sarkar also gives children solutions. And he talks not a lot about, but he talks here about that young children are inclined towards play and that they can be educated through play methods. And this is a long time ago he wrote this, when this was not part of, and you have to think he's writing this from India. We're still not like really attuned to this right now, just starting. Stories and he also talks about through stories, through drama and stuff. I'll show you on the next slide. So he talks about to plays and stories and dramas and how this is a really good way for kids to learn. And then also talks about for adolescents that through the medium of idealism, and they're inclined towards realism, but it's a blend of idealism and realism. And you can see with that young adolescents can be very inspired by someone who's doing something very inspiring that's idealistic and has some realism to it. and they can also be swayed the other way towards someone who's kind of got like charisma but is not really, is really very, telling us to just be all about me and do, get rich and do this and do that. So, it's a very critical time, I think. But we do not have time to just have that big discussion today. But I just want to talk a little bit. He also talks about through pictures and dramas, and he says in a well-written and well-acted drama, the audience feels the living reality of each character. And the audience opens the closed doors of their minds and enters into free mental communion. So in my opinion, no matter what the age of the student, a well-written and well-acted drama can do a tremendous amount of good and be a great asset to the spread of real education. So I don't know if you've read this before, Mukti, but just thought you would enjoy that. And I always enjoy that too, because when I was working with young children, I did a lot of storytelling with little figures, and there's a tell a story and act it out in puppets and act it out in drama. And it is really a way for them to understand and learn about it, about themselves and each other, but also where they're living, and as they get older, the history of things and the culture of things.
Yeah, I read it today also, and I was also very inspired. Also, that so many years ago he wrote it, and it's like exactly what we were talking about today. So
Right. So, I think, we're not going to be able to do this exercise, but I can talk about it. This is another one that's a little bit into a little more advanced place for us. But this exercise is not. This exercise is called the chains of inspiration, and who motivates you and what qualities inspires you. So now we're moving into sort of the group of exercises and things that I know that are about supporting each other, that are a support. And one thing that you can do, and you can see, I'll give you two examples here. The one on the left is in a classroom, and the one on the right was a group of teachers did this, because what started happening when I did teacher circle at the school I was working at, then the teachers started to do exercises with the whole, the ones that took my teacher circle and were in that, then they sort of started to create things and do things with other teachers at big staff meetings and stuff. So how this works is that you have you create you have like a rectangle piece of paper, and you write on it or draw on it someone that inspires you, something that's an inspiring quote or just an inspiring person and something about them, and then you roll it up and everyone does one, and then you sort of staple it and you make a chain and it hangs. And this is like your chain of inspiration. And then once a week or every day or every once in a while, you open one of them and you read it. So it's like these little positive, inspiring sort of quotes, and if someone writes a person in it, then they can that person who wrote it can talk about why that person supports them and why that person inspires them. And what I found in the classroom, it's kind of like a little treat, like, oh, we're going to open one up today. And it just gives that positive energy and that positive inspiration and support. And that, all this big chain of inspiration and support, it's all around us, it's with us, and we can see it, and we know it's there. So the one in the classroom already had a few chains taken off of it, a few links taken off of it. And this other one that was done by the teachers hung up in the library for a while. And then they sort of, talked about it. I think they did is they shared with a partner afterwards what they wrote and what it was. And then it sort of was a representation. And that's from this, some of the teachers then did it in their classroom too. So this kind of gets into the sort of idea of who inspires us, and how do we access that person who just supports us, inspires us. Maybe it's like a teacher we had, or a mentor, or a colleague, or someone, an aunt or a grandmother or mother, a father, who really has our back, who really just really loves us and really inspires us. Um, so, I'm looking at the time. So I'm going to tell you how the exercise is done, and maybe next week we'll have time to do it. What you do is you go in a breakout group of 2, and I'm going to take going to take this off and come back this way. You go in a breakout room of 2, and let's say, maybe I can demonstrate this. Didi Ananda Devapriya, are you there? Can you put your video back on?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so maybe I'll try to demonstrate this with you. I'll just say how it goes. What you do is you just kind of look at each other, and I'm going to be the person, and you will be, I'll do it first, that you'll be the person, and I'll be the person that represents the person that supports you, inspires you. I always say with this, though, for this particular exercise, you can't use your guru, because I'm not going to represent the guru. So I always say that ahead of time. So we're not doing that. And what we'll do is we'll pin each other. We'll get, Scott can pin each one of us. And we'll just look at each other for a few minutes. And I'm going to represent the person that inspires you. And if something comes to my mind to say, I'll say it. And you can just imagine me being that person. Okay.
All right. Do I tell you who it is, or just think of?
You don't need to tell me. I don't need to know. Okay, so Scott, I'm asking you, could you pin both Didi and I so everyone can just see just the 2 of us?
Yes.
Okay, just have Didi too. There we go. Can you see just me and you, Didi? I mean, the people are on the side. Okay, so we're going to start by just taking a breath. So I'm going to invite you to just look at me, and I'm going to be the person that inspires you or supports you. You're doing a good job. If I was there, I would be just patting your back like this, saying, you're doing a good job. Your other shoulder, you're doing a good job. You're a good girl. Okay, that's about it. So I'm Vishala and you're Didi. And you want to switch, you want to try the other way.
Okay.
So you'll be you'll be represent someone from my inspiration that I'm inspired. And what you do is you just actually, I think we'll leave it there. I'm not going to do that. We're going to leave it there. Just allow you to take it in. Yeah, yeah. How was that for you?
Oh, very nice.
Right? It's a nice thing. It's a win-win, right? It's nice. Yeah.
Getting some positive, loving, attention projected towards you. I like it.
Okay, you can take us off pin now, Scott. So if we were going to try this yeah. So if we were going to try this in little breakout groups, we would do it one way and then the other way. And all you're doing is looking at the person and imagining that you're supporting them and inspiring them and caring about them. And if a word comes up or something, image comes up, you can share it. If not, and then you kind of take a break, see how it was, and then the other person goes, and that you do it back and forth to each other. And it just gives you a moment to feel like someone's caring about you. And there are people, and remembering there are people that care about you. So we're going to get into that phase of the program where we're going to talk about support stuff. And that's just a little teeny bit of, you can break teachers up into, pairs, or you can break kids up into pairs. It's like your, special friend, and say nice things to each other. There's a secret friend thing where there's lots of things you can do around this. And it's just this is more of an adult thing, actually.
Do you need to necessarily imagine that it's someone else? I mean, like in this case, it was interesting because then a few supportive things that this person had said came into my mind after you were talking, and it helped me to, I don't know, realize his presence in my life. And then, but I was thinking also it's nice when it's just, especially if they're already colleagues or know each other, like just that giving positive attention to each other without it having to be anyone else that's not present might be nice.
Yeah, we could you play with it and try it a bunch of different ways, and see the comfort level of the people that you're working with and stuff. So, yeah.
Is the bringing it in like imagining that it's somebody who already loves you? Is that just to make it less confrontational, you think, or?
I think it's just to have you to remind you that, yes, I have this support and I have this person. And, sometimes those are very deep relationships, whereas a colleague is maybe not as deep, but I have a whole slew of things. That's a whole nother course of things that adults can do to each other. We did all kinds of I'll just give you one example. There's a hand, we cut out a hand. And what we did is have teachers write things that they really appreciated about the other person and kind of put it on their back. And then, for the meeting, and then afterwards they got to take it off and see what that person wrote for them, very special, sweet thing. So there's so many things about this. During the holidays, we did things that were a gift, and you wrote all the different qualities of that person on a gift and then gave it to. There's very simple things that help people to support each other. And this is just another one of those things, but it's more of a systemic exercise than just, sort of support exercise. But you might feel with the group that you have that support exercise the thing is that if it's not the colleague, if it's not the actual person, you don't get into the dynamics between those persons. That's, you know what I mean? It takes the dynamic kind of out of it.
Personalizes if there's some issue between them or something like that.
Right.
I'm thinking because like in my case, I don't feel very natural people here coming to this. So I was thinking to introduce, but at the same time, it's like I feel that they feel uncomfortable, because they don't talk about feelings and, this praise, it's not common. So I'm thinking if it's something so alien, So I'm trying to put in a scale, what is the importance of it? It's just cohesion.
Connect to their support, So you might just do the things you're grateful for. You have to figure out from the culture or the things that help you, just, helping hand, what helps you in the helping hand kind of. So
So the purpose, what's the purpose?
for people to support, to feel supported, that they feel cared about and supported.
Mhm.
Where you are, that's not an issue, But where I worked, for example, it was a big issue. Teachers were working under very difficult situations. So the idea of them supporting each
Inspiration.
what?
It will be an inspiration for them.
Yeah. Or it could be who inspires you, it could be like your inspiration for what you want to accomplish next, like what would you want someone to say to you to help you inspire you to do the thing that's hard for you to do?
Once I did it, something similar, and I was asking all the teachers what they dream, no, and always to be a good mother, So finished that. So I was wondering how I can use it.
I want to be a good mother. So it's
That's it. Finished. For me, it was very frustrating. So I asked them to tell me people that they admire, and they only bring the pastor, I asked them if they heard about Nelson Mandela. They didn't know. It's so different, But I think, like, for me, it look very nice. For me, for myself. But
then
I
you
think how to apply.
find one person you could do for each other,
Yes.
Or you, it's where it's needed,
Yeah.
I
Thank you.
Next week, Dee, Ray now
Mm.
is coming from South Africa, and I think he's bringing one of the people. I'm meeting with him on Friday. He's bringing one of the people that does parent circles out in the, not in the city, but out in the, Providence in South Africa. So that would be
South Africa is the Europe of Africa. Is Europe ainda West Africa.
Where he works is people
Very
that
different.
the
Very,
country.
very different.
So, but maybe
South
they,
Africa is not Africa. It's very rich.
well,
No, I'm joking. It's Africa, so, but it's completely. But it's okay. It's nice. No, sorry. Take your time also.
some idea, if he brings someone that lives far out in the country, there might be some ideas that, that they could
Yeah.
draw. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So for you, Dee, think of how you could use it for you to start. Yeah. Yeah. But it's good for you to give me that feedback also. And I see that we're over time already. So quickly, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say that because I always like to give, first of all, I want to remind people that our projects are due in 2 weeks. And so I am going to, there's things I didn't get to, but we may be able to get them. This week is only, again, it's only going to be our only other written homework besides the creative brief, is what has been developing you for your breakthrough question. So just write a few sentences about that. And what are your ideas for your creative brief to just get you thinking about that? So just a few sentences for each one in the journal entry for this week. And then next week, we are going to be going. Also, I want to tell people this. If you are thinking, oh my goodness, I have no idea how to do this creative brief. I have no idea who to do it with. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't understand it. Please WhatsApp me and I will make a private meeting with you and we can discuss it. Okay. I don't want you to be like panicking and stressing about, I don't know how to do this. And we'll talk more about next week, specifically, we'll I hope have at least a group discussion about, how's it going and, how I can help you. So please feel free to reach out to me if you want to have that discussion. Okay. Okay. Have a wonderful week, everybody, and hope you all find inspiration where you can.